Hello everyone and welcome back to the JRPG Report. This is going to be episode 95. It is January 23rd as of this recording. I want to welcome all you guys back to your weekly JRPG fix. And we got a great show for you guys here today. Again, I want to give not only a shout out to all you listeners by way of the podcast, but also a shout out to anyone watching on YouTube, as we've got the video going over there. We try to put that out around the same time as the podcast. It does take a little bit longer to get the video all together. I want to remind you guys that you can follow us on Facebook. All the stories that I talk about today will be linked over there. You can find us very easily, just JRPG Report. We're also on Twitter now, at JRPG Report. So if you guys want to give us a follow, I try to put all the stuff over there as well, as long as some other fun things that you can only find in the Twitter sphere. You guys, well, some of you guys know all about that stuff. And of course, we are on YouTube as well, JRPG Report. So give us a follow, a like, tweet, all that fun stuff all over the place. First thing I guess we would like to talk about, and that has to be Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. DLC launched this week. A slew of fans, the thumbnail suggests that they lost their Remind this week, and there's been quite the positive feedback from what I've seen. Some of my friends who are playing it are certainly enjoying it, and if you are as well, that's awesome. Let's talk about not only it a little bit, but one of the other announcements that came about at that time. So first, here's some of the new things that we found out right before it launched, and that is there's some new features. One of which is what's called data greeting. Choose a character and location to take your favorite photographs. Each character's facial expression, pose, and angle can be chosen. You can create a special photograph all your own. There is now a slideshow feature. You can play a slideshow of the photographs you took with background music. And you can then make an original album unlike anything in the world. There's now the premium menu. So they say with pro codes, you can freely set various restrictions to battle with. Score points by winning against specific bosses and the like, and when you reach a certain amount of points, your rank will increase. These are some of the pro codes that are shown in this screenshot that was accompanying it. There's the default status, 0 defense, HP and MP slip, no shot locks, no cure, no battle items, no links, no form changes / grand magic, no attractions, no team attacks. So these are literally pro codes for a reason. You've got to be on it to even come close to trying to do some of these things. This is way above my skill level, needless to say. One of the things that came out a couple days before, there were some announcements that quote, they had 2 development teams going on this Kingdom Hearts, and a new title is coming surprisingly soon. More on that in just a moment. This was a 13 Questions of Darkness Q&A that was posted on the Japanese Kingdom Hearts Twitter account. One of those 2 teams was going to release a title surprisingly soon. The Q&A reads that while traditional Kingdom Hearts may take some time, the Kingdom Hearts Union X team will be making an unexpected announcement tomorrow. More on that in a second. Furthermore, in addition to Kingdom Hearts 3 and Kingdom Hearts Union X teams, 2 new teams are currently at work, and one of those titles is coming. They also touched on the potential of future updates after the launch of Remind and downloadable content. They said, quote, "We don't have any updates planned at this time, but if something comes up in the future, then we will deal with it. As for downloadable content, Remind is the first and the last. We're already working on the next title." We kind of saw this a few weeks or months ago, I guess it's been now, that there are already working on that next title. Nobody knows. I don't think it's Kingdom Hearts 4 per se. As far as like a continuation of a Sora storyline, I feel like it's going to be maybe a new title in the series, but I have no clue what to base that off of. It said, finally, where Kingdom Hearts games in the past were expanded through the release of Final Mix version, Kingdom Hearts 3 expanded through updates and upcoming downloadable content. And asked about the Final Mix version, they had this to say. Currently, there are no concrete plans for a Final Mix release. If it appears on new platforms in the future, then that's a possibility. But I'm not thinking about whether or not it becomes a Final Mix. Obviously, that's saying that, if we get some sort of master copy on PS5, will it be called a Final Mix? And that's certainly possible. As to what they were talking about, this new one, it is called Project Xehanort. It is a new Kingdom Hearts experience for iOS and Android. And it is surprisingly soon. It is due out in spring 2020 with in-app purchases. The tagline for the game asks, why did he become the Seeker of Darkness? That is all we know about at this time. So that new project is, it's coming from the mobile team. So they're making another mobile game. Not sure if that is a worldwide release or if they're just talking about spring 2020 in Japan. We'll dive more into that as we find out. Kingdom Hearts, with the release of Kingdom Hearts Remind, there was also some updates. Versions 1.07 and 1.09 are now available as well. They include the new Keyblades Oathkeeper and Oblivion, as well as new forms, abilities, updated menus, modified cutscenes, and various other bug fixes. So that's all good stuff. That's all the Kingdom Hearts news that I have. I don't suspect we're going to hear a whole lot out of this series anytime soon. That would, I believe, Remind kind of will close the door on Kingdom Hearts 3. They said that there's no more DLC, and at $29.99, I'm thinking that there shouldn't be anymore. That should be all there is about that. We had some other news to get to. This one came out last Friday, and I was sitting up at work and kind of obviously working, but I had the PAX South live stream up because there was going to be a special panel from NIS America, and we were kind of speculating on what big announcements their special segment they were doing was like a making of a port. So we're like, with a title like that, that's certainly something that could be interesting. There's a couple games that we would really like to hear about from NIS America and what they are working on. What we definitely got was that Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel is coming to PC via Steam on March the 23rd.
So far,
publisher NIS America announced at PAX South 2020 the PC version is supported by Engine Software and PH3 games. Users who purchase the PC version before March 30th will receive free cosmetic downloadable content as a bonus. So that was there's been a lot of users wondering when that PC version was going to come out, and I'm pretty sure March 23rd, that's the same day as the Switch version is coming out. And I believe they announced, I've lost that story, but I believe they also announced that the Switch version would include all the DLC that has been included in that release as well, although especially compared to PC, had a drastically lower resolution. The other announcement that we got as well was that NIS America will release a physical edition for Game Freak's Little Town Hero for Switch this spring. Pre-orders for the, quote, Big Idea Edition, unquote, of Little Town Story are currently available on the NIS America online store. Remember, the digital copy went for $24.99. This physical copy is going to go for $49.99. Of course, you get the copy of the game, the Life in the Village art book, Is It Daz It poster, Defender Duo lapel pin set, Town Tunes official soundtrack, and of course the all-important collector's box. It was kind of odd that that this announcement actually came a few days later, but they, well, I guess this wasn't NIS America that did not release this one. This one came out from Game Freak, that there will be a PlayStation 4 version coming for this as well, in addition to the already released Switch version. It is going to come out April 23rd in Japan. There is no news yet on a potential Western release for it, but it does open the door. This game's been had some mixed reactions to it. I don't think people have been too crazy about it. Then again, it's $24.99, so it's not a full, a full-priced game either. I'm thinking maybe once it does come to PS4, if I could get it on sale, that might be something that I would be interested in. They spent a lot of time during that live stream talking about Ys 8 for PC. Now, NIS America didn't have the best track record with its localization for Ys 8 on PC, or I think Switch was particularly not handled well. They're still working on it, guys. They released a major update that improves graphics, performance, stability, input, and user interface, and adds what they call an experimental local co-op mode to it. So there is a huge list of things that they are working on. So they're still working on trying to fix it. Now, is that going to change your opinion of when it was released and all the problems that it had at that time? Probably not. However, it is good that they didn't just say, okay, we're done with it, and that was it. Well, that live stream, well, at least myself and nearly everyone in the chat section that was watching it were hoping for a Trails of Cold Steel 4 Western release date, perhaps even a Ys 9 release date. Both of these games are out in Japan. No mention. Not even... I really feel like it would have been nice to even know that they were, hey, we know everybody wants this. We're working on it, guys. We're just not ready to make a release date yet. Basically acted as if those games didn't even exist. I am assuming that they have the rights to do those games, but there was no mention of those two ones that, like I said, everybody was literally like, oh boy, here it comes, we're going to get it. So, not hearing it there, it could definitely be, I hope we're not waiting until E3 to get a release date for those two games, but you're talking about 5 months from now, so if they did wait that long, I would have to imagine that it's going to be a sooner release date, sometime this year. But that's all the information I can give you on those. Capcom announced the 2020 roadmap for both the console and PC versions of Monster Hunter World Iceborne expansion. The roadmap also comes with the announcement that updates across console and PC will sync, starting with the release of 13.5 update in April. So yeah, there is quite a few updates that are all coming out. You can check out the Facebook page for all that information. But yeah, they've got through June talking about all the different things that they're doing and updating. quite a few, mostly just fixes, but there's some definite variant monsters coming out, new event quests, updates. Here's one in May. They're saying the return of a fan favorite monster. So yeah, lots of good stuff. If you want to check that out, be more than welcome to on the old Facebook page. A story came out from the latest issue of V-Jump with comments from from Dragon Quest Monsters series producer Taishi Inuzuka regarding the latest entry in the series. If you recall back, they were definitely already working on that next Dragon Quest Monsters title to come out. But then here are his comments. Quote, "The new Dragon Quest Monsters. I want to say something high-spirited, but at the moment I really can't. Quote, I want to do something about it, but it feels like the more I work on it, the more those efforts end in vain. It's like taking 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. This year is packed with good games, so please play them at your leisure while being patient with this one." So they might have got this poor guy on a bad day, because if you are a Dragon Quest Monsters fan and you are looking for the next entry in this series, this sounds bad, to say the least. It doesn't sound like it's coming out this year. It doesn't sound like it's coming along very well. We know it's coming because we saw those images a while back that it was going to be about Eric and Mia from Dragon Quest 11. So it's not like they don't know what they're doing, but I don't know. It doesn't sound good. We'll just have to wait and see how this one kind of plays out. The Monsters sub-series is something I've never got into, but I know a lot of people enjoy those, so comments like these were not what you want to hear, for sure. There's also news about Dragon Quest Builders from their producer, Takuma Sarasashi, and they said, "We're working on a different game We're working on a game different from Dragon Quest Builders. Please wait a bit longer, or rather just a while longer, until the announcement." So I don't think we're talking about Dragon Quest Builders 3 anytime soon. Maybe taking a break from that line for just a little bit. There was also in V-Jump, there was a newly announced Digimon Survive characters, Suji Kayama and Lotman, as well as a smartphone camera feature that can be used to spot hidden Digimon and items. Suji is a first-year high school student who joins the camp as a helper. As someone with a serious personality who is older than the others, he tries to protect his friends. Lotman is a beast-type monster with an innocent and childlike personality. And the camera function says, by holding up your smartphone, you can see things that are not normally visible, including hidden items and monsters. Digimon Survive is due out for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC worldwide in 2020. In Japan, it's only going to come out for PS4 and Switch. We've reached about the halfway point. I've got a few more news stories to talk about, and I didn't tease this at the very beginning, but you will want to wait until the end, as I have got my, let's call it the top 10 most highly anticipated JRPGs that should come out in 2020, but you'll have to wait until the end to hear that. But let's just take a quick break here on the JRPG Report. All right, everyone, welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 95. I'm your host, James Fisher. And don't forget, you can join us each and every week. New episodes typically come out on Thursdays. Sometimes we get a few things, and Wednesday looks like it's a little better to record. Of course, it always just depends on what we've got to talk about. And this week was just fine. There, each year, of course, there is the Tales of Festival, and this year it's going to be June 13th and 14th at the Yokohama Arena in Yokohama, Japan. Bandai Namco announced to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Tales series with the fans. The theme of this year's event will be, quote, support, unquote. Bandai Namco also announced a Tales of Orchestra concert 25th anniversary to be held at the Pacifico Yokohama National Convention Hall later on September 5th. It will feature a special program to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the Tales of series. Have to imagine this is the 25th anniversary, so maybe, let's see, this is June 13th and 14th, so that's right around when E3 is going to be at, so I guess depending on which one actually ends up coming first is when we'll know more about Tales of Arise, but I don't think we'll get anything new out of this one this year, but that is a cool event that they do every year for the fans. Level 5 has announced a new trailer for Snack World, the Dungeon Crawl Gold, dubbed Let's Get Looting. The trailer introduces kingdoms to the Kingdom of Tutti Frutti, where you can create your own hero, complete quests in randomized dungeons, and earn loot. You can play locally or online with other players. Snack World, the Dungeon Crawl Gold, is due out for Switch on February 14th in North America and Europe. It came out back in April of 2018 in Japan. Interesting looking game, to say the least, but it does look like a lot of fun. We got a new trailer for Fairy Tail from publisher Koei Tecmo and developer Gust. And this one is introducing the town of Magnolia as it has been recreated in the game. So, first look at this new created town. Looks pretty awesome. Fairy Tail is due out on March 19th for PC via Steam Worldwide and PS4 and Switch, Europe and Japan, PlayStation 4 and Switch on March 20th in North America. Looking forward to this one. The more I see of it, the better it gets. We've got the last new. We already got all the trailers for Trials of Mana, and now we have the final in series of the last of these three trailers spotlighting the main characters. This one focuses on Hawkeye, the noble thief, and Riesz, I guess that's how you say her name, Riesz, the highborn capital of Lawrence Amazon Guard. So you guys can check out that new trailer. It's over on the Facebook page. As always, of course, these trailers are interesting as it shows what it would be like to have these two characters as one of the threes that you choose for your party. Of course, the outcomes are all different based on not only who you choose as your main character, but as the other two in your party. Got some information about a winter update for Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet. This update will launch on February 3rd, and a demo for the Switch version of the game will follow the next day on February 4th. Publisher Bandai Namco announced at the latest Tengeki PlayStation live stream. This update will include a new scenario and dungeon. The main characters are trying to take on a new quest, but trouble occurs in that, Arphasis, I guess it's how it's pronounced, is hardly able to speak. Apparently it has something to do with this new quest. The new dungeon, Abyss Dungeon, is a random dungeon where your level starts from the beginning, allowing you to test your abilities. You will level up, acquire skills, collect items, and aim to clear the dungeon's 50 floors. That's that's an interesting way to try to do that. Golly, that sounds challenging. So yeah, that new Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet Winter update will launch February 3rd. You can check it out on the Switch demo the next day on February 4th. There is a new 30-minute, I won't say trailer, but it's a new video for Death End Request 2. And it shows a lot of dialogue mostly in this one, but there is some gameplay as well. So you can check out the link to that. Of course, on the Facebook page. I think I got it on Twitter as well. If you are interested in checking that out for yourself and seeing if it's a game that you're going to look forward to or not. We've gotten a ton of information about Persona 5 Scramble, the Phantom Strikers, and this is going to add to it as there's a new nearly 40 minutes of footage that was released during the latest Dengeki PlayStation live stream. This one featured the recently detailed Okinawa City and its jail. Of course, the game is due out February 20th, 2020 in Japan. The first 10 minutes is just exploring around the town of Okinawa, and then the next 16 minutes are all in the jail, whereas the final 12 minutes say that they are challenging, oh goodness, let me try to get this name right, Hekaton Sherry's on hard difficulty in the Okinawa jail. So sounds like a pretty challenging boss fight for an action RPG to go on for 12 minutes. Game is looking spectacular, and I'm hoping we will get some sort of Western release date after this one comes out in less than a month in Japan. Also had a quick question that I posted on. I completely forgot about this one. So let's talk about it. I posted a question on the Facebook page today asking what's the biggest question you have about Final Fantasy VII Remake, or your biggest fear, or both. And so let's read through. We had a couple people respond, so we'll go ahead and read a couple of their comments. Some are a little longer than others. So first we'll go with Hans. He said, the biggest question is why not go multi-platform instead of exclusive? And I'm guessing that's just from a technical standpoint. It is a PlayStation exclusive as well, so I guess they bought the rights to that for 1 year. I have no doubt that it could make its way onto PC, and then therefore Xbox One, or I guess by this point we're talking about the next Xbox. But yeah, I believe as far as exclusive, I believe that was cash is why PlayStation backed the truck up to Square Enix with the truck full of cash and said, that's ours for a year. His biggest fear are microtransactions. Isn't that the biggest fear with everything? I can definitely see costumes, even like, Cold Steel is bad about like the level microtransactions. Of course, none of it is necessary, and it just makes it easier, but that is just a part of gaming in this new connected world that we live in. See, Dalton, he says, my biggest question is how are they going to flesh out the world and expand it? I mean, a whole game in Midgar is, it's a family program. We won't necessarily use the name that he used. Yeah, that's my biggest fear as well, is you've got a game that they say, quote, is as big as the original, but just in Midgar. And I just don't see it. I can see they could stretch out to 40 hours. Now, we're not going to know anything until this game comes out, if that is truly just Midgar, or if it's, let's say if it's, the surrounding towns and up to that first cave and first couple little towns, is that where it's going to end at? Actually, it's not going to just be at the city gates and you're finally leaving. But Midgar is certainly big enough, but for me to say that let's say, 80 hours is what you maybe the first time play through, you're going to explore everything in that town to get that kind of time out of it. So yeah, Dalton, that is my biggest question as well. His biggest fear isn't anything about the game itself, but the inevitable outcry from people who want to be the exact same game. That's definitely possible. I mean, I'm kind of right there with it as I want it to be faithful to the original, not to deviate and just make guesses at what things could be. He says he also cannot wait to see Ifrit, and I believe I can't either. Yeah, you're going to have backlash about this game. You're going to have a ton of, I think people love it, but you cannot please 10 million people. It's just impossible. It doesn't matter what you do. Somebody's going to be upset. That's reality. So Adam has a rather long comment. Let's see if I can get it all in here. And his is actually much of the same. It says, how will having a full game based entirely in Midgar change the gameplay? It's going to, I mean, it's an action RPG, so everything has changed as far as that goes. That's one of my questions as well, is typically when you're talking about a full-length JRPG, you're talking, 60, 80 hours, but these are turn-based games. Is an action RPG with obviously much quicker battles going to still be able to have that length to it? I don't think it can. He says, in the original, the game did not open up until after leaving Midgar and heading to Calm. Even the story didn't truly up until Cloud tells his enthralling story. Plus, Midgar is whole included significant time away from main characters, as well as comparatively light combat encounters while you're kept busy in areas like Wall Market, where things can be a little fetch questy. Absolutely. Combat definitely is limited in those first couple of areas. It's a little bit of hand holding, and I think they can expand upon that. They've already kind of said that, like with the trade graveyard, that's going to be greatly expanded upon. I'd say the sewers before that's going to be much. I think they're just going to flesh out everything a lot more. Maybe get to explore more of the Shinra building in that mission on the way from Sector 7 to 6 or whatever they end up going through, all that stuff. That's going to be, it's just going to be much more fleshed out. You're not going to talk about one or two screens and then you're to the next sector. I think it's going to be a lot more to do with that. He says, I think they'll have to change the Midgar experience up quite a bit in order to flesh out the game into an entire lived-in world, but I worry about finally introducing this remake with an entire game where we will never get to explore the world. It's a tall task. The huge finale in the Shinra building should be pretty bonkers, though. Absolutely. It should be. One of my biggest questions has to actually do with that final assault on the building, and without ruining for anyone who's not played the game that came out 20 years ago, it'd be hard to listen to a JRPG podcast in 2020 and not at least have some experience. So the final character that we've not seen, Red 13. When are we going to see him? And how awesome is he going to be? It's a little weird that we've not seen him yet. Odd. And then let's just say the boss battle in the elevators. How is that going to work? So, if I recall correctly, you're basically, Barrett's the only one that can attack because it's long range, and everybody else just uses their magic. So that's going to be a little bit of a different fight. They're going to have to completely reimagine how that's going to work. Unless they're going to somehow be in one big elevator. I'm not real sure. So yeah, definitely some questions that I have. How does Midgar get turned into a whole game? There's only one way to find out. We're going to have to wait till April 10th. But that was fun. I'm glad you guys had some good ideas, and I share them as well with you. So, our last segment. Let's talk about my top 10 JRPGs. This was not an easy list to make, as there was definitely a few that I felt like could be in that top 10. And then it was really tough ranking them. I think previously I have shied away from getting a physical rank and just giving to them in no particular order. I felt like this one deserved a ranking, because that's purely because it's anticipation, right? It's not my opinion on, these games came out and this is the best one, but this one is not as good, even though you love that game and I don't. So I gave a physical top 10 in order list. We'll go over about halfway through the ones that did not make it in. And keep in mind, this is my list. It's not yours. It doesn't matter if we don't have the same top 10. That's okay. So let's get to it. At number 10, my 10th most anticipated game for 2020 is Fairy Tail. This has a worldwide release on March 19th of this year. Koei Tecmo and Gust are bringing this one out. At the moment, I believe this will be the final roster. It has 12 characters. Of course, it's based off the popular manga and anime of the same name, but this one looks like to have a original story being told in it within those parameters. The group of adventurers, they call themselves guilds. They earn money and fame by completing job requests. It's going to come out for PS4, Switch, and of course on Steam. And I think I'm looking forward to it the most. I've always enjoyed Gus games. They're some people clearly don't like them. I've never seen the anime, so it's not like I'm a fan of it and can't wait for it. I just think it looks like a really incredible game, and it's magic based. And as I've stated before, magic kind of takes a back seat in some of these games, and you just kind of plow through with your swords and other weapons. And while those are certainly in this game, I think it's an interesting take on it. Turn-based battle system, so you've got me there. Great looking character models with magic based fights. Sure, sign me up. And put me down at number 10, so it's not like I'm logged into it. I mean, coming out March 19th, there's no way on the planet I'm getting this game when it comes out. It is just even with the delay, not the best time for your game to come out. Number 9, okay, not out of Japan, but a JRPG through and through. For me, my number 9 is Christ Tales, being developed by Modus Games and Dreams Unincorporated, SYCK. This is coming out, just has a 2020 release date, nothing firm yet. There's going to be a few of those on this, as it wasn't my top 10 games with a absolute release date is what games are supposed to come out this year. This one's going to come out for PS4, Switch, Xbox One, and PC via Steam. The thing with these, I definitely tend to go towards turn-based battles. That is my preferred battle system. I still love action RPGs. That's fine. This one has a very unique one, though, incorporating time bending. Players interact with the past, present, and future at the same time. Not only in the exploration of the city, it kind of has that triangle where the present is in the future, right in the middle of the screen. The left is the past and the right is the future that you can see at all times. Battles are the same way. So I think the example that I saw was if you go in the past and throw like a poison attack on an enemy and then go into the present or future, well, that poison is going to have affected them quite a bit over that time. I just think it's a very unique system. I think it's going to be very difficult for them to pull off, properly, they're trying something very ambitious, but I can't wait to try this. This is definitely a love letter to classic JRPGs, and the art style is gorgeous. I really, really like games like that with a unique art style that really just draws you in. So Christ Tales at number 9, one I'm definitely looking forward to and would love to see a firm release date on sometime soon. At number 8, Trials of Mana. It's coming out April 24th of this year, being developed by Square Enix. It's going to come out on PC, Switch, and PS4. Of course, this is the complete HD remake of Senkin Detsu 3. I never played the third Mana game. I do plan on picking that Switch collection up at some point to play Secret of Mana as it is intended to have been played, and play the original Trials of Mana. But I think this one looks good. It is a complete remake from the over-the-top RPG with multiplayer to now a single-player action RPG in third person. So they've definitely taken a bold approach in changing that, but I think they kind of saw with what they tried to do with Secret of Mana and remade it in the same fashion. It just didn't work. Why it didn't work, that may be a different argument as to that it definitely could have, but it didn't. You have 6 playable characters. You get to choose 3 of them. Based on those choices, the story is going to be completely different. I think that aspect is very intriguing, and I can't wait to kind of get into that. And also, your classes are going to not only be upgradable, but you will get to choose either that light or dark path to them. So in addition to all the variables with your characters who you pick in the story, you also have it in that light and dark path as well. The game looks very good. Looks like it's a lot of fun. At number 8, I think it's properly ranked in terms of anticipation. Also, that April 24th release date, I'm probably not picking it up the day it comes out, but it will be something that I can get into at some point in time. Number 7 is going to disappoint at least one person that I can think of. It may disappoint a few other ones that you're going to say, it's too low. James, what do you got down there for? And I'll explain why. Number 7 is Persona 5 Royal, coming out on March the 31st of this year. And while I say it's not number 1 on my list, it's probably going to be the next game that I buy and actually play the day that it comes out. So that should speak to something as well. Whereas, I just mentioned these other 2 titles or 3 games with firm release dates. 2 of them, Trials of Mana and Fairy Tail, I'm not picking those up first day. I'm getting Royal the very first day. Of course, it came out last Halloween in Japan from Atlas. And Atlas USA is doing this one. It is the continuing into the 3rd semester of the school year from January to April. New locations, new events, new combat strategies, and a lot more. Of course, that brand new character, Kasumi. Can't wait to play and see her story. There is now gun customization and just a whole list of improvements to the original, which was one of the best JRPGs to come out in a long, long time. You now have the gallery to rewatch movies and event scenes. New strong enemies in the palaces called Koima, as well as the new Ishi items to collect and assemble into pretty cool treasures. Here's why it's at number 7. I've played this game before. I played this game 2 years ago, so it's not like it's been that long. And while I'm certainly excited to play it, it's not like it's DLC and I just get to play the new semester. You get to play it all over again. And while it's a great game and I'm looking forward to playing it again, guys, it took me 120 hours to beat Persona 5. And so this is adding a whole nother semester to it. I cannot imagine how long this game is going to be. And it's great, but I guess this is where this is a personal thing for me. I don't have as much time as I used to have for video games. I have an hour, maybe 2 at night after the day is done to play. I don't have hundreds of hours to devote to super long games, so I cannot wait to play this game, but I know it's going to take a long time. There's that big game coming out on April 10th that's going to completely interrupt it. So there's a lot of factors going into why this is only at number 7, and I hate to be that way, but that's just the reality of the situation. And as you can hear, I went old school and actually wrote these things down. You can hear the page turning or not. Yeah, that's pretty loud. Let's go ahead and talk about all the ones that didn't make it, as I kind of feel like a lot of these you've probably seen on YouTube more than a few top 10 most anticipated lists. And maybe I'll do a few. Let's do a few more that you may not know if they're in there or not. I kind of feel like there's 5 titles, give or take, that's on everybody's list, so it's not going to surprise anybody. But let's do a few more that may not be in everyone's. For me, number 6 is Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Right now, it just has a 2020 release date from Monolith Soft. I feel like this one's going to come out a little bit sooner than we anticipate. I'm thinking summer for this one. Now, it's a little bit higher on my list for a couple factors, right? I never played it on the Wii. I wanted so bad to play it on 3DS, and of course it was one of the few titles that required the quote new 3DS. The one that I had would not play it, and I couldn't justify buying another system to play a game that there was only a handful of games that required that system. That was kind of a mistake on their part. And while I regretted missing it at that time, I feel like we're going to get it by far the best version of it. I watched a trailer for the original Wii release in 2011, and boy, does it look like a Wii game. It's not pretty. So this game, using the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 engine, it looks up to par. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is my favorite game on the Switch. It's not a Zelda game. It's not Breath of the Wild. How dare you say such a thing, James? It's my favorite game. I put so many hours into that thing. I loved it. So, getting to play the game that came before it and getting to learn more in that world, I'm all about that. I think it sounds like so much fun. I just hope we get a release date here fairly soon. Let's do 2 more because they may not be in everybody's top, and certainly maybe not in this list in this order. Number 5 for me is Persona 5 Scramble, The Phantom Strikers. It'll be coming out in Japan on February 20th. Still no firm Western release date. We're probably looking at late spring at the earliest. I'm thinking more early summer to late summer. Atlas is developing this with the help of Omega Force, the Hyrule Warriors model, the old Dynasty Warriors idea of action RPG with tons of enemies on the screen, flashy combat, changing the Persona battle system from turn-based into an action RPG. Looks to be working fantastically. If you'll notice, there was one little thing that definitely came up, that this this is kind of a sequel to Persona 5. Whereas Royal is going to tell that third semester story from January to April. This one is set in the summer preceding all of that. So story-wise, it is absolutely a sequel. It's just changing the combat system. The only thing that came to the top of mind, and I'm sure there's others, was, for me, think back to like Persona Eve. While, first one was, it had action elements to it, but by and large it was turn-based. And then to Parasite Eve 2 was straight action with RPG elements to it. Didn't like that one. But this one looks much better from that perspective. And I just cannot wait to control all the characters directly, flying around the screen, doing all kinds of crazy combat. The new character of Sophia looks like a lot of fun. I'm very excited about this game. I'm much more excited about this one than I am about Royal, and I kind of feel bad about that, but it just it's much more grabbing my attention. Plus, I've not played it before. It does, it is a sequel in terms of story as well. It looks like it's got all the right elements. Looks like a lot of fun. So number 4, I think, is by far the biggest. Maybe not by far, but it is questionable to come out this year. But in my heart of hearts, I think it's going to. And that's Granblue Fantasy Relink from Cygames. It does have a release date of a window of 2020, so it's on the list, and I'm hyped for it. Every little bit I see about it gets me more and more excited to want to play it. While it is action, I do prefer turn-based. It looks so fast and fluid and fun. I can't get over that. It is based off the anime and popular mobile game, Granblue Fantasy. Of course, Platinum Games did develop this one in the beginning before handing off reins to Cygames, and the longer it's went on, you're kind of seeing maybe why that happened. Platinum had a contract for a set amount of time. The development cycle was going to go way past that, and they just couldn't stay on for that long of a period of time. It's definitely one of those games that I think, like, once you see it, it kind of speaks for itself. It has that fantasy feeling of like the early Final Fantasy games for me, with all the airships. The towns just have this alive feel to it. When you walk around, it really feels like you're exploring this amazing fantasy world. And it's been a long time since I've seen that and wanted to experience it in a game. Will it make it out this year? Only time will tell, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it actually does. Let's quickly talk about the games that did not make the list, because I think you can guess at the final 3 that I have, as this podcast is going long. We're going to be close to an hour. Here's quickly the ones that didn't make it. Arc of Alchemist, Bravely Default 2. Guys, that was like number 11. They can't all make it in. That's just the way it goes. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, Haven, Langrisser 1 and 2 Remake, RPG Maker MV, Death End Request 2, Sakura Wars, Sword Art Online, Alicization Lycris, VVV Tunia, and Yakuza Like a Dragon. Not to mention, I guess, I don't think these games are coming out this year, but they have been announced, of the Legend of Heroes with its sequel and Crossbell series. Obviously, those are games that I want to play. They're not coming out this year. I just I don't see any way that actually happens. But you never know. At number 3, Tales of Arise. Has a release date of 2020. If you saw one of my earlier speculation, I made a video as well as talked about it here. I think this game is actually going to make it out this summer. It got that listing in Korea. We've not heard a whole lot about it, but I really hope that it makes it out. This is the 25th anniversary of Tales So I believe it's important to them that it comes out in 2020. Guys, do you know this is the 17th in the mainline series? That's pretty incredible. I did not realize it's quite that high of a number. So far, we just know the two main characters, Alphen, who comes from Donna. He feels no pain. Here's where it gets dicey. There's nobody on this planet, I think, that's not going to have FF7 Remake as their most anticipated. But actually, it's not for me. It's number 2. Square Enix is remaking one of the most beloved games of all time. It is finally going to get in our hands on April 10th of 2020, which, oh, by the way, if you're worried we didn't talk about it earlier, one of the fears of it getting delayed again, I have zero fear of it getting delayed again. Remember, April is the end of the fiscal year. This game has to come out in April. It has to come out, or Square Enix will miss all kinds of financial benchmarks that it sets for itself. What needs to be said about the game that hasn't already been said? Absolutely nothing. The only reason why it's at number 2 is, I mean, we have played this game before. While it is a remake, it's still going to be the same story, and it's not the whole game. We're talking about a multi-episode game that Lord knows when we're going to get a conclusion to. I'm so hyped for it, but let's just skip to number 1, because if it comes out this year, which it needs to come out this year, my most anticipated game will be Trails of Cold Steel 4. So the reasons why it's number 1 will explain why FF7 Remake is number 2 for me personally. I've been invested in Trails of Cold Steel for a long time now. The story that it is telling is now over hundreds of hours. I've played 1 and 2 multiple times. I'm getting close to I'm in the final dungeon of part 3. If you add them all together, I mean, I'm talking 300 hours plus of game time in this series, in this story that has been building and building and getting bigger and bigger, and these characters that I know so well and love. The story's going to finally come to a conclusion in part 4. I need to know that story conclusion. It needs to happen this year. There's no reason for it not to in this year. The game has been out in Japan forever. NIS America needs to bring this game out, and I need to know how the story ends. It'd be like if you watch the first 2 Lord of the Rings and Return of the King doesn't come out for another 2 or 3 years. You're sitting there just waiting, and you're waiting, and you know the story you want it to end. And I guess I could learn Japanese and go get that import, but that's not really what I want to do. I love every aspect of this game, from battle system to the characters to all the story stuff that's going on to the upgrades. Just, I love this series so much. I need to see it done, and that's the only reason why it's not. While FF7 Remake Part 1 is not number 1. I can't imagine anybody else not having it at number 1, but for me, it's just not. And I'm sorry if that hurts anybody's feelings that it's not number 1, but I gotta be honest with myself, and that's just the way I feel. So this might have been the longest episode ever of the JRPG Report. I'll have to go back and check the official logs, but over an hour doesn't happen very often, if ever, before. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Don't forget to get onto Facebook and let me know why I'm a big dummy for not having FF7 Remake as number 1. That's fine. You can have your opinions. We've all got them. Follow us on Facebook. Give us a like there. Follow us on Twitter at JRPG Report. On YouTube give us a review wherever you listen to it at. And I'm still accepting listener support. You can do that at the bottom of each episode, or send me a message. I will let you know how you can do that. But I'm done talking. I'm sure you're done listening. So until next week, guys, we'll have some more fun stuff to talk about on the next episode of the JRPG Report. Until next time, get back out there and level up. The legend of Class